Welcome to Canopy Uncovered, where we explore the ideas, conversations, and stories that matter in real estate and our communities. From market insights and policy updates to innovation, leadership, and real impact, each episode brings you a different perspective. In this candid and personal conversation, Joan Goode sits down with longtime friend and healthcare leader Dr. Stacy Nicholson to reflect on a career dedicated to advancing pediatric care and strengthening the Charlotte region. From leading Levine Children's Hospital to helping establish Charlotte's first four-year medical school, Dr. Nicholson shares lessons on leadership, collaboration, and service. Together, Joan and Dr. Nicholson explore how visionary leadership, strong partnerships, and a commitment to community are helping shape the future of healthcare and the future of Charlotte. A production of the Canopy Realtor Association, this is Canopy Uncovered, the C-Suite.
Welcome to Canopy Uncovered. I'm Joan Goode, president of Canopy Realtor Association and Canopy MLS. One of my favorite things about this podcast is having the opportunity to sit down with people whose leadership has truly shaped our community. Some people witness the city's growth, while others help create it. Today's guest has certainly done both. Charlotte has changed tremendously over the last several decades. We've welcomed new businesses, new neighbors, incredible opportunities. And as realtors, we spend a lot of time talking about neighborhoods, schools, quality of life, and what makes someone choose a place to call home. But there's another piece of that story that often doesn't get talked about enough, and that's healthcare. Families want to know they'll have access to exceptional medical care. Businesses look at the strength of a community's healthcare system before deciding to invest. And physicians, researchers, and medical students all become part of the fabric of the communities they serve. Today's guest has helped shape that story in ways that have impacted generations of families throughout our region. Dr. Stacy Nicholson recently retired after an extraordinary career serving children and families across the Carolinas. As president of Atrium Health Levine Children's Hospital and chair of pediatrics for Wake Forest University School of Medicine, he helped lead transformational advances in pediatric care, physician education, and one of the most exciting milestones in Charlotte's history, the creation of our city's first four-year medical school. I've had the great privilege of knowing Stacy for many years, and I've always admired not only his leadership, but his heart for serving others. I'm so excited for today's conversation because I think you'll hear how one person's commitment to children, families, and community can leave a lasting impact far beyond medicine. Stacy, welcome to Canopy Uncovered. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Great. Thank you, Joan. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Happy to be with you here today.
Excellent. Well, first of all, congratulations on your retirement. Before the show started, I commented that the smile looks like that one of a relaxed, retired individual.
Yes, indeed. The work is awesome. Worked for many, many years, but it's nice. It's nice to have a time when you can focus on your family, focus on getting the exercise and rest that you need, and look back on what you've done in the past and enjoy those thoughts.
It is nice to reflect. And one thing I'd like to start with, I'd love our listeners to get to know the person behind the titles. One of the things I've always admired about you is that even as your responsibilities grew from physician to executive, you never stopped showing up for the community. Lane and I have always enjoyed seeing you and your wife, Carol, at Canopy Strides for Shelter each year, and there's so much more. Where did that heart for serving others begin, and what ultimately led you to pediatrics?
Yeah, great question, Joan. And a lot of it comes from family and community. I grew up in a small town, Clarksville, Georgia, in northeast Georgia. And it was a community that had a lot of hard work. It was a community of faith, family, and the community itself was very important to everybody who lived there. And it was a place of great beauty that when you grew up there, you had really no idea until you went away. And then when you came back, the mountains sort of spoke to you. I was always attracted to service opportunities. And again, being in a rural community, first things I thought about being was a teacher or perhaps a minister. And then the teacher kind of morphed into being a college professor. So I went to college at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, and I went there planning on getting a PhD in mathematics and becoming a college professor. So that was my initial serious career plan. While at Furman is one, a great school, but two, is a great community. As a first generation college kid, it was nice being in a student body of about 2,500 people. Students there were encouraged to volunteer in the community, which I did. But also during my second year at Furman, I started thinking seriously about medicine. And I decided, okay, I'm going to start taking the sciences that you need to get in medical school. And if those go well, I will go to medical school. And so they did. And I left and went directly to medical school in Augusta, Georgia, at my state medical school, then called the Medical College of Georgia. I went there planning on becoming a general internist and going back to the mountains of North Georgia or Western North Carolina and set up a practice. And I'd never thought about taking care of children as where I would end up. But when in medical school, typically during your third year, you do all the different various specialties. You do a month roughly, or 6 weeks, or sometimes 12, depending on the curriculum, in a single specialty. My first rotation was in pediatrics, and I was blown away by taking care of kids. And for me, I really like taking care of sick children and their families, children who need to be in the hospital. So that led me to go into pediatrics. The other thing is I loved pediatricians. I found my tribe. So I found where I fit. So that was also really, really important. That interest in working with children who needed to be at a hospital because of the seriousness of their illness led me to pursue pediatrics first, and then pediatric oncology. And I had a career clinically, primarily in taking care of children with brain tumors. I did my clinical training at Children's National Hospital in D.C., stayed there for my first job, and then as much as an adventure as also a job opportunity, we lived out west for 20 years. Initially, we went to Portland, Oregon, so I could start the pediatric brain tumor program at Oregon Health and Science University. So that was my clinical career, but I've always been interested in leadership. And so starting about 21 years ago, I started morphing into leadership being a bigger part of what I was doing.
Wow, that's an incredible career. And it's so fortunate that there are people that are drawn to taking care of very sick children, because that can be rewarding, and it, I imagine, can also be a heartbreaking career path. So thank you.
That's also very, very true. One thing that was really important, I think this is important in every career, but especially in healthcare, when you're doing something that's hard, you have to also realize that you're doing this for the families and for the patients. And if you're so impacted by what they're going through that you can't help them, you're of no use to them.
Right.
And so you have to realize that I'm here for them. They are coming to me because of what I can do for their child. And you have to do what you need to do, whether it's exercise or with your family or with your worship community. What do you need to do to take care of yourself so that you can be there for your patients? That's really, really important in healthcare.
That absolutely makes sense. Or you could perhaps sing in a choir.
That's one of my ways. That's been very, very important to me since childhood.
That's incredible. So one thing healthcare and real estate have in common, and I think you touched on it a bit, is that people trust us during some of the most important moments in their lives. Throughout your career, you've led incredible teams while always keeping children and families at the very center of every decision. Because as you mentioned, when it's hard, you have to think about why they have come to you and what they're looking for you for help. So when you look back over your long and accomplished career, how has your understanding of leadership changed, and what lessons have stayed with you the most?
First of all, I would say leadership matters at every single level. So whether that's you're the CEO of a large healthcare system, certainly that leadership really matters because they are setting the strategy and making the most critical decisions. But it's from that level all the way down to the clinic manager. Leadership matters at every single level because you're making decisions that impact patients' lives, even if you're not clinical, even if you're a business person who is leading. The other thing I would say too, that it's important to manage things well and to keep an eye to the finances, et cetera. But leadership and management are not the same thing. And leadership, to me, is about taking care of your people as much as it is anything else, because And this I came to actually kind of late in my career. I used to say patients first, patients first, patients first. And that's still important. But the best way to take care of patients is to take care of your people who are doing the frontline work. And so I think that's the most important thing about leadership is understanding what do your people need to be the ones who are on the front line taking care of. So what do they need? And you make sure, how do I get that to them? And so they don't have to worry about anything but the patient in front of them.
That makes complete sense. And that's the nurses and the physicians and really all the way down the line. So, looking at it through that perspective, I completely understand how that would change your mind shift from thinking about, okay, I'm just kind of one-threaded, and really it's multifaceted, which I think you described beautifully, and probably would lead to many types of leadership, as you mentioned, as opposed to just managing the task. You're actually leading people to become better at their careers, their position, whatever it is they do in the stream of the business. Thank you.
Exactly right. And that would translate to lots of businesses, but it's especially important in healthcare.
Absolutely makes sense. So one of the defining accomplishments of your career was helping bring Charlotte's first 4-year medical school to our city. As someone who's spent my career helping people put roots down here, I've watched Charlotte grow into a destination city. Great schools matter. Strong businesses matter. Housing matters. And so does world-class healthcare. At what point did you realize this wasn't simply about educating future physicians, but about helping shape Charlotte's future for generations to come?
Here, I'll put in a disclaimer here just to make sure that folks know that I am retired and I'm not here today as a spokesperson for Atrium Health. I'm a private citizen who was blessed to be involved in healthcare and frankly to work at Atrium Health, which is part of Advocate Health, which is a really great company with a heart. And I was really blessed to finish my career working there. In medical schools, it's interesting. I worked in Portland, Oregon for many, many years. And Portland's a smaller city than Charlotte is, but there you saw what the medical school had done for that community. It was one of the most important employers in town. Certainly not the largest. There are several corporations that are headquartered there. And before I was here, I was at Phoenix Children's Hospital, which had been the largest city in the country without a 4-year medical school. That had been solved a few years before we got here. Charlotte, when I got here, was the city that had that moniker, if you will, which is the largest city in the country without a 4-year. And why is that an issue? I mean, we had good hospitals, we had good doctors, we had good people here, but what does a medical school bring to a community that simply having hospitals doesn't? Well, medical schools have lots of different missions. First and foremost, they are school, and they are there to educate the next generation of the workforce. And if you go back 100 years, that's what medical schools really did. And that was why they existed. And they had a hospital attached to them so that the students had something to do. But their mission was really around training. Well, research is also incredibly important, generating new knowledge so that we can cure more patients tomorrow, prevent more diseases tomorrow, keep people healthier tomorrow than we can today. So they became places of innovation. And then innovation creates more healthcare opportunities, which keeps communities healthier. And then so they become over time also major employers. And they become an economic engine for their community in addition to providing care. And the level of care in a medical school affiliated hospital is generally the highest possible level because of that innovation, because of the cutting edge care that is there. And I would say, our CEO, Gene Woods, recognized when he came to then Carolina's healthcare system a decade ago that was one of the missing pieces was having a medical school. And so that was, I think, out of the gate, one of his goals. And the partnership with Wake Forest has been tremendous. The fact that the two campuses are about 80 miles apart, you can get there in slightly over an hour and a half from one campus to the other. It's one school, but two campuses. So a single dean of the School of Medicine is in charge of both campuses. The two campuses have medical students that are here full time. So, for instance, Charlotte started in 2025 with our first, I think it was 49 medical students in the first class. ultimately be 96 per class. And within about 3 or 4 years, there will be four full years of students here at 96 apiece. And they'll be here all 4 years of their experience. The teaching methods are different in both campuses, but the outcomes are expected to be the same. And so it's where the students want to live and where there's a spot for them and where the fit is good for them.
Incredible.
My job with the school was to be the chair of the Department of Pediatrics for Charlotte, and to make sure that my faculty were prepared for the students and ready to teach the students. We've had medical students at our hospitals here, especially Carolinas Medical Center and Levine Children's Hospital, for 4 to 5 decades. This was not a new skill, but it's certainly way more organized, and having the same set of students here for 4 years is going to be really, really great. And again, the innovation that comes with that is amazing, because without the medical school, there wouldn't be ERCAD, for example. So ERCAD is this building that's with the medical school, that's the cutting edge of surgical innovation. And there are multiple companies, healthcare companies, who have invested into that. And so far, I think it's focused on surgical innovation. And I believe probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 surgeons from around the country and around the world have come to Charlotte to get trained on new techniques surgically. That wouldn't have happened without a medical school.
That completely makes sense. And how many would you say, and I know you don't have an exact number, but out of those students that come here and those surgeons, how many fall in love with Charlotte and stay here, continue their career?
It usually is a majority of people will practice very close to where they did their training. And that has to do more with residency programs than it does with medical schools, but we have strong residency programs. That's the training programs after medical school. So pediatrics, internal medicine, surgery, and on down the list. People tend to stay close to where they trained. So the fact that we have a medical school here, the fact that we will continue to build training programs, will bring more people to Charlotte. And people love Charlotte who move here. And the fact that it's a growing, vibrant community with lots to do, good schools for their children. If they came from somewhere else in the country originally, great airport, they can get back home to see their families, et cetera. So it's a great place to live. And the fact that we have a medical school here will bring more people to Charlotte in the health fields.
Thank you. And what I'm hearing you say is a strong healthcare system is very essential to a thriving community, even for people who may never step inside a hospital.
First of all, healthcare is a major industry in our country and major part of the economy. Everybody needs it. For example, I'm an oncologist, and childhood cancer is very rare, thankfully, but cancer is kind of a disease of aging, if you will. 1 in 3 Americans gets cancer in their lifetime. If you go down the list of diabetes, heart disease, et cetera, as you age, your likelihood of needing medical care for those conditions increases. So as we live longer, then we need more healthcare, and that's a fact of our success, frankly. I'm also a big believer in having a robust children's hospital in a community. I'm very proud of what my predecessors and I were able to build at Levine Children's Hospital, and the care that goes on there every single day. The other thing I would say that's important about a strong healthcare system is they're generally good paying jobs. And so it's a boost to the economy. That's particularly true once you get outside the big cities and rural areas. Nursing jobs, for example, are some of the best paying jobs in rural communities. And so having robust healthcare there not only provides care for people, but helps with the local economy.
That's incredible. And Charlotte, as you mentioned, is definitely growing. I absolutely love the fact that Spider-Man and Batman clean the windows of the children's hospital. Was that your idea? Because that is so clever.
Yeah, no, I would love to take credit for that. I first saw that at a previous children's hospital where I worked. That really, I think, has become a very common occurrence now across the country. That children's hospitals and the companies that wash their windows have partnered to do that. And that just brings anything that happens like that, brings a smile to the face of the families who are dealing with all sorts of things, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, kidney failure, et cetera. And sometimes we're in the hospital for quite some time, and anything that brightens their day is great. And so the windows need to be washed, might as well be done by Spider-Man, right? It's Joe somebody, right?
Exactly. It's incredible. And just all the little faces that come to the windows, it's amazing. So we have spoken a little bit about how Charlotte's story is still being written. Every day, new families arrive, businesses continue investing here, and our community keeps growing. After spending your career helping prepare Charlotte for the future, what gives you the greatest sense of optimism and what excites you the most, not only about healthcare, but about where Charlotte's headed?
I've lived in some great places. Grew up in a beautiful community, was not a city by any stretch of imagination, but I've lived in the DC area. I've lived in Portland, Oregon. I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona before moving here. It was great to come back home in a way because, again, I'm from Georgia. My wife is from South Carolina. We met at Furman many years ago. I've lived in some great cities, and Charlotte was a great city when we got here. And boy, in my decade here, has it grown tremendously. And the opportunities that it has for families, for careers, and it is known for banking, but there's so many other opportunities now. The diversification of opportunities for careers makes it a richer city. And I think that, there are many families who've lived here for generations, but the infusion of people from other places who've moved here and are choosing to call Charlotte home for themselves and their children, it just brings a diversity of ideas and I think makes us all richer. And it's personal to me because, Carol and I are both retired at this point in time. This is where we plan on spending most of our time in retirement, not every minute of every day, because I do have a son and daughter-in-law in Michigan. I have a daughter and son-in-law and soon to be 3 grandchildren in Colorado. But I do have a son and his new wife here in Charlotte. And so we have family here and are excited to be here for the next phase of our lives as well.
Well, congratulations on the upcoming 3rd grandchild and all the weddings and all the life. Before we close, I'd love to ask you one final question. As I was preparing for today and thinking about our friendship for 10 years and about your legacy, which certainly you've helped build hospitals, you've helped build a medical school, you've helped shape healthcare, but I don't think your legacy is really about buildings. I think it's about children whose lives were changed because they received extraordinary care. It's about families who found hope during incredibly difficult moments. It's about the physicians and nurses you've mentored and the leaders you've inspired. Long after we're gone, the work you've helped build will continue serving this great community of Charlotte. When you reflect on your career, what do you hope people will remember the most?
I hope they remember that I came to work every day ready to do the job. 2, that I built programs or enhanced the programs already there so that they were better and so that they were better equipped to take care of children. And that I left the hospital or the department or the program that I was leading, left it better than I found it. I'm thinking back to my interview here for this position a decade ago, and the question I got from Levine, because I had stated that I felt like Levine Children's had a great foundation, um, but with a little bit of visionary leadership would go to the next level. And Levine himself asked me the question of whether I was that leader or not. And my answer, which is I hope the answer also for Charlotte, but my answer to that was that I'd spent 18 years in Oregon. And I said, 10 years from now, nobody's ever going to remember that I was there. I said, but 10 years from now, I'm still going to know that the children of Oregon are better off because I spent 18 years of my life there. So I hope that that's my legacy here in Charlotte, is that my decade of leadership here of Levine Children's Hospital and the people that work there, especially the doctors and the nurse practitioners and PAs that I was most responsible for, that because I spent that decade here, the children of Charlotte and the Carolinas are better off than they would have been otherwise.
So well said. And oh my goodness, said with heart, said with care, concern. And we were so lucky to have you in our healthcare system. And I'm so lucky to call you friend. And I thank you so much, not only for joining me today, but for the incredible impact you've had on Charlotte, on children, on families throughout our region. Listening to you and your story reminds me that thriving communities don't happen by accident. They're built by people who choose to invest their lives in something bigger than themselves. Throughout your career, you've done exactly that. Whether caring for children, mentoring future physicians, or helping establish institutions that will serve generations to come, you've helped make Charlotte stronger. And I am certain that families and children will absolutely remember you for many, many years to come.
Well, great. Thank you, Joan. It's been a pleasure.
As realtors, we're reminded every day that communities are about so much more than homes. They're about the schools our children attend, the businesses that create opportunity, the nonprofits that serve our neighbors, and the healthcare systems that care for our families. When all those pieces come together, they create places where people truly want to live, work, and build their future. Stacy, I thank you again for your leadership, your friendship, and your extraordinary service to our community. And thank you to everyone listening to another episode of Canopy Uncovered. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe and share this episode with a friend or colleague, and stay tuned with Canopy Realtor Association and Canopy MLS as we continue to bring you conversations with the people who are helping shape the future of our communities.
For our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share this with your colleagues, and join us next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of Canopy Uncovered, presented by Canopy Realtor Association in Charlotte, North Carolina. Connect with us at carolinahome.com.